What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Apartment 113 podcast, where we talk with cool folks in the cannabis and psychedelics industry to learn about their projects and celebrate their successes. My name is Rob Sanchez, and this is episode 48. We're joined today by Natalie Diaz, Brittany Tovar, and Delia Rojas, three attorneys at Emerge Law Group. Emerge Law Group is a premier cannabis law firm with deep knowledge and understanding of all aspects of the cannabis industry. They have experience coast to coast and specialize in regulatory compliance and licensing for operators, drafting state laws, and assisting with land appeals and more for legacy, craft, and beyond. Find out more at emergelawgroup.com/expertise/cannabis and enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, guys. It's good to have all of you join and have a representation from Emerge here for the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, thanks for having us, Rob. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to do the show. This is exciting.
And how many different attorneys or different states make up Emerge? I kept learning more about it and realized it spanned more than one state, and the story extended all the way back into Oregon, I saw, and across maybe 7 or more states.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in right there. So this is Delia, and Emerge is we reach across. Let's see, we got New York, New Jersey, Colorado, California, Oregon, and Washington that we work in, and everything started with Emerge over in Oregon with a core group. And we've been expanding ever since. And we've started with and focused in cannabis and expanded into psychedelics as we've grown. And it's been a really great firm to work with, honestly. And it's Natalie, Brittany.
Yeah, and if we rewind the clock a little bit before all of your involvement with Emerge, were you already working in and around cannabis law, or did that come into the picture later for you in your careers? We could go around the group if you'd like.
Yeah, so I'll start. So I actually became interested in cannabis law in my second year of law school. I even petitioned to my law school to even have a class about cannabis law because I was interested in what it was all about. And, I figured that, I really wanted to get some experience in the field and see what this all was about so I could really help people, especially since New Jersey got legalized in 2021. So I was working with, he was an attorney at the time, but I was working for a cannabis law attorney in my third year of law school. So me and Brittany, we recently passed the bar this past summer, so we're quite.
Congratulations!
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yes,
so exciting.
So it's really nice being, in a very new industry in the state in general, and just having graduated law school and passing the bar, and it's really, we're helping to frame the groundwork here, and it's really exciting stuff.
Right, a unique time for the industry there, and for law in general. I imagine there's few times that a brand new industry emerges kind of throughout history. It's got to be cool to be looking at some of those foundational laws and seeing how the states are trying to build their little microcosm correctly. Everyone's trying to learn from each other. How about you, Brittany? Were you involved in anything with cannabis law before passing the bar, or
No,
jump into it afterwards?
My story should go last, but my involvement, or how I was introduced into cannabis law, was kind of a weird roundabout thing. I had been in compliance in a transportation company for several years, and was kind of wrapping that up and deciding that I was going to go ahead and graduate with the corporate and business law, but maybe I can try one more internship before I really sealed the deal on my law career and then taking the bar. So I found an internship for a government body, a U.S. government body, and the idea was that it was going to take me over to D.C. and I was going to be there for however many weeks for an internship, and I was super excited for it. I interviewed. They wanted me to join one of these agencies. I get to the final round where it's like going through background checks, and it asks a question of, in the last year, have you consumed any illegal drugs? And at the time, it was already legal in Jersey. And honestly, I had already been going through a rough year, and I happened to be taking edibles like once a month, once every few months to like go to sleep because my stress was really taking over. But because I said yes, I decided to go ahead and not lie because, law is all about ethics and making sure that you're doing the right thing and not trying to be dishonest and all these different reasons that I figured I should go ahead and just be honest. So I said yes, that I had consumed edibles within the last year, which then led to this weird series of like after questions and was I ever in rehab? Was I ever convicted of any kind of crimes? And all these crazy questions that eventually they ended up denying my application to actually work, even though they had already accepted me kind of. This was like the final round of, all you need to do is pass a background check. But because I didn't, I was unable to proceed with the program. But my mentor, who would have been my mentor, thought that was quite ridiculous. And he said, actually, I know a guy who's looking for cannabis attorneys, and he does this in Jersey, and he lives and like works kind of around you. Let me see if you want to go ahead and have an interview with him. So I said yes, and that ended up becoming my introduction into cannabis law because I started at Emerge as a law clerk when they were willing to take me for a summer. I would have been at this, government internship. That suddenly,
oh man.
Okay, now I'm at Emerge. How interesting is this? How funny! The thing that got me disqualified from one job absolutely like propelled me into this one.
Is the qualifier and the passion for the next, huh?
Exactly.
And so yeah,
Delia?
Yeah. So like my journey to Emerge is a little interesting as well. I got into legal work, thinking about the entertainment industry and getting into intellectual property. And my friend one time took me to a cannabis, networking event. And I met people in this industry, and I just instantly felt, basically these are my people. Like I wanted to work with this industry, and cannabis has been already in my life for so long. It kind of felt like it just was a really good introduction into the legal work that I could be doing. And so I pivoted my career a little bit into cannabis, but still utilizing my business and intellectual property, background. And started working in cannabis in 2018 and started working with Emerge in 2020 and have been working across 3 states at this point ever since. And it's amazing to work with this industry, with these people, and helping, like you said, Rob, it's it's very rare to be part of an industry that's emerging at this time. And being part of something within California, and then again seeing it through New Jersey, and now with New York just opening up and closing yesterday, it's very, very exciting. There's never a dull day in the cannabis industry, and we're here for it all.
Yes, yeah, and I think a day or a year in the cannabis space is like 2 years or 2 days in any other industry. There's so much going on, and so much different red tape and different hoops that operations have to jump through as far as their compliance and their tracking and state laws, patient limits, and so on. How do you go about addressing the cannabis industry overall with such specifics for each state? Do you really have to specialize there? Or I think I heard you're covering 3. Does everybody kind of take a few? Or is it possible to approach all of it kind of as a lawyer and as an attorney then?
So, I mean, maybe Delia could probably speak on this a little bit more, but for sure, Natalie and I, we do kind of help cover the New York and New Jersey areas. They are different laws and do require different, specifics of certain regulations that are just honestly just opposite even of one another between the two states.
Oh man.
But I mean, any attorney can, of course, get into this field, but for sure, knowing the individual states and their individual rules becomes very important. And of course, recognizing the differences between that state and maybe any others that you might work with, which Delia is a pro at.
You get very comfortable in those state documents, huh?
I mean, and from my perspective, you know, it's definitely, it's a challenge because of the fact that, you know, that's federally legal on this, you know, it's federally legal, and then each state therefore has their own regulatory system. So working in 3 states, there are, you know, overarching challenges that every state has faced. You know, and I could go through those, but like individually, it's definitely a challenge because everyone does something differently. And it seems like we could all learn from each other, but every state still has their own challenges. And so it's definitely, you know, it's a difficult, it's a challenge to go through all states. And but we work with those different challenges and try to face them individually on each state. So what I mean by that is that, like, you know, we have the overarching challenges such as, you know, state laws, the local regulations, and individual type of uncertainties and things like that we can think about as we practice in each state, and you know, face each of these challenges. Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's got to be a challenge to manage that. On the software side of the game, I've dealt with just the track and trace elements from one state versus the next, and
oh yeah,
sometimes there are those reciprocal things or those correlations between like Colorado and Montana, or the way 2 states are doing something. Mm-hmm. But then you have states like California that's just got to be unique, who kind of flips the whole compliance thing on its head and requires some different some different hurdles and things like that. So I can't imagine from the law side really what it entails to support. Do you kind of learn more as you take cases as an attorney, or I mean, do you do a lot of studying initially to come up to speed as a expert or as someone knowledgeable in that? Or is it kind of a combination of both when it comes to learning more and like approaching the knowledge set that's required?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question, Rob. So that's like actually really challenging for us to begin with when there's these new laws and regulations in place, because of the fact also of the federal illegality of cannabis. So it's up basically to the state to make these regulations, and they delegate so much authority to the municipalities. So this is actually the first time in history where the municipalities have more governance than the federal government does over this. And, you know, because it's so regulation based, it's completely anew. And that's why it's so important to talk to our colleagues and have a team in this industry, because we need to interpret the regulations like on the fly sometimes. And especially with these regulatory agencies, they don't get back to you immediately when clients have these pressing issues. So this has definitely been a joint effort.
Yeah.
Right.
Like tag along with that. The idea that, you know, on the one hand, there's of course your own interest that gets piqued when you're in this industry and what's going on and what new things are happening, or just generally like how you can help somebody. But every client has different issues that they're facing, which is part of just, I mean, I imagine it's part of most businesses, but in particular because of all these different like series of federal versus state versus local, you know, things that you're just kind of always juggling. Every client in this space has a very particular issue. So while we can study as much as we want on just the fly certain things that are happening, there are other things where we absolutely have to go and get into depth into areas that we wouldn't have expected because of some weird nuance that this particular state hasn't covered or considered that now should be, because
I see. Interesting. Yeah. So sometimes then you do have to kind of learn. You really need to learn or find the research, or as you said, you know, even interpret like a new law on the fly, or start to hang some more structure around a law that may have been written and untested.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then like, because like the biggest thing is like, we have the state regulations, obviously, and then the local jurisdictions in many of these states can then have their own regulatory scheme, which can then make it there's a whole nother level of learning what
How they actually interact, huh? If they cross each other out or work together.
Exactly. Or like additional permits, or maybe the state says, hey, you can have any of these licenses in any of the state, but then this jurisdiction says only retail or only cultivation, or it has to be this or that. And so we can learn only so much at one time, and then focus into the jurisdictions and requirements for that specific client. So it's a constant learning, it's a constant job, like learning on the job. But then at the same time, we're also trying to constantly keep up to date with all of these regulations and changes.
Definitely like the, I can appreciate and respect that continuous learning aspect that they must require, right? Having to stay on top of the trends and see what new state is clearing which laws. Has there been one state overall that you guys have worked with that's the most litigious, or I guess for the comparison on the East Coast versus the West Coast, or anything like that you could make from more of a general perspective?
Yeah, New York definitely has seen way more lawsuits in comparison than New Jersey, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's been, New York has definitely been in the headlines, huh, as the licensing has been, I haven't followed it completely, but things have just been paused and delayed, with folks paying already for facilities and who knows what else.
Yes. Yep.
Right. But
absolutely.
So New York's making a name for itself there early on in the industry.
Yeah. And then now at this point, for on the West Coast side, of California, it just seems like there's a lot going on, whether it's, contracts between partners, contracts for sales of companies, or if it's going to be anything dealing with licensing between the jurisdictions, because there's a lot going on between the differences between annual and provisional licenses and their rights between that, which is a whole nother discussion. But at this point, it seems like there's a lot going on when it comes to these types of litigation and figuring out how to iron out these the issues that surround them.
And is there a secret hotline or red phone that all of the Emerge attorneys have when there's an issue like that comes up?
We can't tell you that. That's cool.
We'll make sure and edit out the location here.
It's like, erase the IP. Erase the IP on that.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting with the just brand new laws and just completely untested process. Is there another industry that's similar to this from the litigation perspective, or from this state by state differences, or is all of law kind of like this with the differences in each state and locality?
It's definitely not all like this. Oh, Delia, you go.
Yeah, no, I was going to agree. Yeah, no, I was going to say that definitely not the only industry, but I would say it's maybe similar to alcohol. I mean, alcohol, in every jurisdiction, there's different laws. I've also worked in the alcohol industry, and, like California has the most liberal ones where it can be sold till, 2 a.m. And there's states where you can't sell it on Sundays, and there's other states like in Oregon and stuff where you can only sell liquor in certain places. So but at the same time, cannabis is, from my experience, the most regulated industry that's out there right now. And my perspective and my opinion, personally, overregulated
Overregulated.
industry.
Yeah. So some red tape is good, of course, right, to keep everyone honest and keep things tracked, but it can be taken to an extreme. Are there cases and conversations happening then now that will be historic, from your perspective, when it comes to like state governance and the way that the cannabis industry is unraveling? or is it still too early to kind of call that out?
It's a very interesting question. For me personally, I would think that right now the conversation about reschedule versus descheduling cannabis on the federal level is going to be historical, because
That's the one.
whatever the decision is going to be, it's going to change everything, in how we move forward, and it probably won't change again in our lifetime, at least, because it takes a lot of time to change the federal law, on something like this. So if it is rescheduled or descheduled, like, that's going to change everything. And
That's the monumental one that will really have the impact outside of the states kind of adding their medical and rec programs.
absolutely, because
Yeah.
I have my own feelings and concerns with the rescheduling versus the descheduling, and how, each one can have its own effect on the rest of the country,
Yes.
and each state. So
It's very interesting there, seeing where folks lie and kind of what the different perspectives are on it. I think that in general, I'm kind of for progress overall. In both steps feel like a step in that direction, right? Increasing some clarity and decreasing the intensity of any punishments or any involvement there. I see that argument, and then I also see folks saying, "Hey, if you're going to reschedule, just deschedule." But it feels like a stretch at times when you look at cannabis from the medical perspective versus recreational. I think that throws another wrench into cannabis with kind of differing parties, where the alcohol industry is a little more united in what that end user is after.
yeah, no, absolutely, that's definitely a good point. Yeah, it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had, especially right now. And I just think, from my perspective, rescheduling can cause other potential issues in the industry, and maybe something that we're not necessarily looking for at the end of the day, like as an industry as a whole.
Right. It seems like the reschedule would potentially involve the pharmaceutical side of the space very heavily, and I've seen that sort of emerging and getting started in the psychedelics side of things. Seems to be very clinically based and kind of pharmaceutically driven.
Yeah, and then even though cannabis started that way too, which I don't think. The medical premise, I don't think is a bad thing or anything. I think that's great that we're looking at it in that perspective, and I support that 100%. The Schedule 2 aspect, though, of allowing the pharmaceutical companies to jump in on this game, I would say, is what I'm concerned about on that Schedule 2
Right.
rescheduling. We have no idea what that's going to entail, what those new laws would take for even the state companies. If it's Schedule 2, that means only pharmacies. It's a pharmaceutical, so only certain companies could sell it at that point. So what does that mean for all dispensaries?
So even those state licenses then may come under question with that schedulization.
Yeah, and that's my concern.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking about, is that these pharmaceuticals could come in, and potentially there's just the federal law for to sell a pharmaceutical or a Schedule 2 drug. There's different licenses, different requirements. What does that entail for all of the dispensaries that are state licensed right now?
Oh man, imagine the paperwork required on that on that conversion for the nation.
Exactly. So it's like, and then again, here you go with the overregulation and these poor operators that are working on getting these licenses. You got the state level, you got the local level, permits, licenses, constantly being regulated. And now we're going to maybe have another federal permit they have to get. I'm not quite certain that that's the case of what would happen, but that's my concern.
Feels likely, yeah. And for an industry with so much red tape already, adding something else, another license or another hoop to jump through, does not help. It's one of the hardest business types to start, just because of the license acquisition and the pressures and needs around that.
Exactly. Yeah, Brittany or Natalie, do you guys like have any thoughts? I'm sorry if I'm taking over.
Oh yeah, all good there, Delia. Yeah, any thoughts on the deschedule or reschedule? If you had to guess, with what you've seen so far, what would be the best outcome, or what was your preference there?
There's pros and cons with everything. I just feel like if it got legalized on the federal level, then what you're going to see, especially in the cannabis industry, is you're going to see these, major for-profit corporations coming in and dominating everything to an even worse scale than it already is going now with these multi-state operators. You're not going to get the little...
truly multi-state at that point.
Exactly. It's going to be like, like Tito's vodka or, Jack Daniels. You're not going to see those, small mom and pop places or,
Yeah,
you're not going to be able to get the same quality. But at the same time, it would be good to have that, because then so many other people who have been, incarcerated or affected by the war on drugs, and even, for the Class 1 classification of cannabis to, be able to enjoy it actually, and, have some freedom from, these harsh restrictions. So that would be a major benefit. And then also if it got reclassified, especially to a Schedule 3, it would be, pharmaceutical companies running this. So it's very hard to say, what would be good for the future if things were to turn out a certain way. But I do think
either one almost puts the reins in a different, kind of in a different industry's hands. So either, from the big corporate multi-state or global companies that would get involved versus the pharmaceutical companies, huh?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And for an industry that's already seen a lot of like taxation and issues around that, and had to pull through whole lot of things. Imagining those reins or the controls going anywhere else is hard, but also imagining cannabis taking the next steps as a legitimate industry without that feels impossible, actually, to have the stability for like institutional investment and be able to do like a global trade or interstate commerce. I think is really necessary for the space. I wonder if someone will come up with a third alternative or something along the way.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, there's a $1 million question everyone can think about over the Christmas break.
There you go.
The multi-million-dollar question.
There you go.
So you guys are working to help folks get licensed in their states. At which point in their business creation can they come to emerge for assistance?
I mean, I can go ahead and start that, but I mean, obviously, my fellow colleagues here, I'm sure, could finish it. Businesses can come to us at any point. We help with the formation, the operations, the financing documents. We help with the real estate aspect. Honestly, we are a full service law firm, and we're more than happy to help anybody at any stage in their cannabis journey. What we do often find is that, it's really hard to say, because even in Jersey and New York, so many businesses are just starting now. These are very state specific, rules, and they have very specific ownership restrictions. So we're seeing a bunch of people who are even just starting from scratch, just wanting to be formed, as well as, of course, anybody else who's already gone kind of through a process, and maybe they're looking for real estate and just need help with sealing that deal to make sure that it's compliant with the state regs. So it could be anywhere and everywhere and everything and all at once. So we're more than willing to help. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of where I think we stand. What do you guys?
Yes, and I know that there's so many folks that want that confidence, that the legal review and backing and what they're doing, especially before they put money down or lock in any properties.
Yeah, that's one of
it's quite a gamble.
The beautiful sides about our group. So, I mean, while there are law firms who are more than willing to take anybody's money just because you might have any question, we are absolutely the firm who will tell you, hey, maybe you might want to consider doing this on your own. And, it's a pretty simple process, so don't maybe waste your money just yet on attorney's fees and having us review certain things that you can do on your own. At the same time, we're also very much willing to tell them these are certain things you really do need to have somebody's eyes on. So if you don't want to work with us because maybe you're not ready for that cost just yet, but maybe, of course, pretty much anywhere else it's probably going to cost you even more, we're going to say, okay, well, let's come out with a plan to kind of still help you, even if it's not necessarily in the exact way that you might have originally wanted, but you definitely still need, because so many things in the space require, compliance eyes on this, making sure that things are exactly the way it needs to be to comply with like certain regulations, whether it be with the state, with the municipality, whether with just the planning board. We're here to help you, and we're going to do what we can do it.
You do not want to be audited or surprised by anything on that side of the fence.
Yeah, and I'll just want to add really quick that like our firm, like Brittany said, we are doing it from beginning to end, and not just with the state licensing or with the cannabis permitting. We're helping with planning board and with all of the other local permitting. So the whole process to get operational as a cannabis business is not, it's not just one application or two. It's a lot of different applications. It's a lot of analysis. And so, not only are we looking at where, the zoning or the space or the regulatory things, we're trying to look at everything all at once to make sure, like Penny said, everything all at once. We're looking at it all to make sure that to help give you the best possibility to be permitted. Because obviously there's no guarantee in any type of jurisdiction for any type of permitting, but we look at everything to make sure that, you have that best opportunity that you can.
Right, really setting you up for success, and trying to get everything in your favor that's possible in that regard. The different licensing around each state is chaos as well. Looking at that, I applied for the Missouri Social Equity Lottery last year, and I'm going to be applying again this year in the fall. I haven't looked at too many other states, but I'm hoping to get back over the Midwest eventually with a license, so I'll have a reason to contact Emerge one of these days.
I love that. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Whenever you are.
Well, fingers crossed on that lottery. I think it'll be again next October when they draw.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it's crazy to pay attention to all of these, how long it takes. It takes like 6 months to be part of these like lotteries and things like that. And so, I think, it's a really like a industry of patience and integrity and
right, just
determination.
Yeah. Whether it's intelligent to do so or not, right? Just keep on. Stay stubborn. I think the industry definitely has that streak that helps it stay moving along.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If we switch gears here to the psychedelic side of things, in your respective states, how are things progressing in that perspective? I know there are cities that have decrimmed different psychedelics. There are ketamine clinics kind of popping up and things along those lines. I've attended a few psychedelic conferences and learned about some different medicines and derivatives that companies are attempting to make, but haven't seen a lot of progress or anything that would directly connect to the consumers yet. It's all kind of bubbling in the background with businesses and research from what I've seen.
Yeah, so, I'll speak first to California. So California has had a couple of state bills on the line, and the most recent one unfortunately did not pass, but it's been in the works, and it seems like this bill has been on the deck for a couple of years now, I believe, and every year it seems like it's getting a little bit closer for psychedelics to be decriminalized at the very minimum, and then hopefully legalized on the state level.
I see. That would really help. That'd be starting the ball rolling for sure.
Exactly. Yes.
So with San Francisco, they've decrimmed, but it's only in the city area or the Bay Area.
Yeah, and Oakland as well. Oakland also does that, and I believe that Colorado has a few as well. But yeah, it's just the very local jurisdictions in California right now that have decriminalized it and actually allowed for some sale. I know Oakland has a few clinics that have psychedelics available for sale for medical users.
Wow. Yeah, that's fast. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's, the Bay Area, they always got to take the first step ahead, right?
Yep. Jump right in.
And then, so with Oregon, that's where, our firm really hones in on. Our firm, our shareholders and partners of the firm were writers and consultants on Measure 108 in Oregon, which allowed for the clinical sale and the clinics that are now being permitted now in Oregon. And so,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, we've been working on that, my goodness, I'm forgetting the year off the top of my head, but for Oregon, our firm is in the forefront of that, and our shareholders and partners were the writers and helping. And we have many clients in Oregon that are working on getting those permits, and we continue to help structure and form the legal avenues for psychedelic clinics in Oregon. And also for, I believe, not only just, psilocybin, but I also, as you said, ketamine as well. So we have clients in various types of psychedelics in Oregon as well.
That's great. I love to hear that the businesses are already springing up in those locations that have allowed it. Shout out to those cities that have decrimmed. Las Vegas, come on.
Yes.
We'll try to get it done. I feel like a lot of folks would appreciate it in Las Vegas for all kinds of reasons. But the psychedelic space is very intriguing, both from the health perspective and what it can actually do for folks, from helping with long-term trauma and PTSD kinds of things, like blockers and things that could really catch people up in life for a while that you could get over and around in a healthy manner. But also from the microdosing and recreational side for folks that don't drink or want to hang out a little more naturally, I guess is one way to put it. I could see a lot of avenues for psychedelia expanding in cannabis footsteps and kind of adjacent to it as well, as I think it's, from my understanding, it's people in the psychedelic side are very, very much trying to distinguish psychedelics from cannabis to avoid some of the pitfalls that the cannabis space has fallen into around CPGs and kind of price wars and things like that.
Very interesting. Yeah. It's it's a little bit of both, I think, trying to separate it as its own industry, but at the same time saying that it needs to be, available in such a way that cannabis is for medical patients. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. We don't want it to be, we want to iron out the regulatory hurdles that we felt through cannabis, and hopefully not feel them as we go through the psychedelic, the development of the psychedelic industry. But, it's kind of hard that's the comparison there. That's what people are going to see. So, and I
it's
think
hard
that
to not draw that directly. Kind of talking about cannabis, you can fall back pretty quickly to referencing alcohol or another vice or pharmaceuticals or something that is just relatable in the conversation, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah. So it's just, but hopefully it's going to have a different rollout than we did with cannabis, maybe hopefully shorter than cannabis was, because obviously, it's been around in California with Prop 215 since 1996. So
yeah, it probably will be shorter then.
Hopefully it's a little shorter than that. But I do have hope in this new, this generation coming forward, and as we work through everything, and education, people learning about what these products can do for you, medically and just, in general. And so, I hope that moving forward that it wouldn't be as long of a rollout or, as much of a, what's the word I'm thinking? Like, that it would just be a little bit more accepted as we go through it and able to get that.
I think that's the word you're looking for. Destigmatized. That's for sure.
Yes, thank you. Destigmatized. Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Kind of people have seen it happen already and have opened their minds to, other substances and healing from them. It's a path I think we can definitely follow. Are there any conferences or events coming around the corner for Emerge in 2024? What's next for you guys on the project portfolio?
Yeah, so we want to go to the National Cannabis Festival in Washington, D.C. the weekend of 4/20, because it's also psilocybin, psychedelic friendly, and also cannabis.
Awesome.
Yep. So we're hoping to get the rest of the team out west on board so they can participate in the psychedelic conversations.
Especially because they've been so part of even the formation of the laws out on the West Coast. So having it happen over here on the East Coast is almost like coming full circle from where they started to where we're at now.
Yes, I imagine now you guys can sound like the experts in the circle with the organ on the resume. Yeah. There's not very many people that can say that.
No, absolutely. We are part of the teams that have started these laws and regs, and we are the experts in it. As much as we wouldn't even shy away from gloating, this is entirely our space, and we're absolutely excited for what's to come.
Yeah, that's excellent. Awesome, guys. Yeah, and the National Cannabis Fest looks great for folks that aren't aware. Happening over in DC again. I saw a little bit of it this last year, and got some FOMO there. So we'll see where I end up this 4/20.
See you there. Rob.
See you there.
That's the problem. I think we need more cannabis holidays because folks can't travel to all these 4/20s. We need to have 8/20 and 12/20.
Yeah, I mean, we got to get more 710.
There you go.
We got to get more 710 ones out there. And then what's the date for psychedelics now that we need to do, which is I believe 8 or 9.
Does Psychedelia have a day?
I believe it does. I have been told. I think
maybe it's like Bicycle Day when Albert Hoffman had his bicycle ride on LSD. I think it is this September, maybe.
That's the one. No, that's April 19th. Bicycle Day is.
April 19th. Yeah.
But I swear there's one in September for psilocybin for mushrooms. I think it's 9/10 or 9 something. But we should have all of these. These should all be holidays.
Yeah, we'll leave that for our listeners to figure out on their own. That's a little bit of homework here before the next episode.
There you go.
And I will be finding that out as well because might as well celebrate if there's a day set aside. But yeah, it's been excellent to talk with you three and learn a little bit about what you're doing at Emerge and your past in the space. I think you're getting involved at such a promising time. It's going to be awesome to revisit this conversation in a year or so's time and see what you've encountered in both spaces. So yeah, I wish you guys success with Emerge and looking forward to see who else you can help on the litigatory side. And in the meantime, where can our listeners find out more about Emerge and connect with you?
Delia, do you want to jump on that? For sure, they can reach us at emerge.com. It has all of our bios, all of our different expertise, and I believe most of our contact information. So that's a good start.
Exactly. Emerge. Yeah, you can reach us on our website. There you'll find our blogs. You can sign up for our weekly newsletters. We do Cannabeats, which is every other week for cannabis updates and just the hot topics that are going on for that week or for that couple of weeks. We also do psychedelics, which it does for psychedelics. So we have 2 newsletters if you guys are interested in that. And then we on that website we also have all of our webinars that we're going to be doing, any of the panels that we'll be talking at, and then of course all of our contact information. If you guys want to reach out, always happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for listening to the Apartment 113 podcast. For more information about the show, along with our services and courses, visit apt113.com. We offer cannabis software product management, cannabis education courses, and freelance writing. With over a decade of experience in the cannabis industry, Apartment 113 is here to help.